that not all admins are equipped, qualified, and interested in the same roles. And so some of the things that we got as questions in advance were, how do you navigate job descriptions? So I'd love to, if we can, kick that off with Vanessa. Tell us a little bit about how you read job descriptions.
Oh, wow. Good question. It can be a point of frustration for me, having been, again, doing this for 30 years. I know. When I feel that they're rubber stamped, you can really tell how much an organization, how they code into the importance of the role and all the different stratifications of the role by how they present a job description. So I scan through for all the things, and I mentioned that in my article too, the travel and the expense and the calendaring. Events can also be a sidebar thing. And I was like, okay, yeah, I can do that. But I look for a little something extra that tells me that maybe I want to work for them. If they put the care and effort into making this not a rubber stamp job description, besides the big 3 or 4, that they've actually put some effort into it. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm not just looking at the big 4. I'm looking at, do they want someone to be strategic? Do they want a partner? Do they know, and I love words, so do they know how to state that?
And that's a really good question, because I get that asked a lot, is how do you know if let me back up. There's 2 kind of trains of thought. A lot of folks will look at job descriptions or say there's no jobs out there, we're all competing for the same thing. Okay. And you know what, in some contexts you're right. Amazon has, I'm outside of Seattle, but Amazon's got over 200 EA positions posted within their entire organization.
Wow.
Right?
Are they all the same?
Definitely not the same.
Okay. Well, that's
right. Well, I mean, they all say executive assistant, but like the roles are completely different. The pays are different. And so folks are often asking me like, well, how do you know which kind of job to apply for? And there's 2 methods. One I call the spray and pray. Just spray your resume everywhere and pray somebody picks it up, right? That's a really disappointing job search strategy. Yes. It reminds me of network marketing, right? We've got to get through our 100 no's to get to our 1 yes.
That makes sense. So yes. And I have to say, in my own search, and then we can open it up to other people too, that I was so panicked about saying no to the job I had because it was terrible. And then just jumping into a job search, and I was in kind of panic mode. So I have to say I did the spray, thing at first. And I'm like, no, I got to be strategic. Where do I really want to work? So it was more about doing research on LinkedIn. And I have to say at this point too, I have a lot of contacts, and I don't really realize, how you can leverage that. But,
tell us about that a little.
Well, kind of swallowing my pride and letting my friends know and my trusted contacts, including all you all, that I was looking. And that yielded such fruit. I got the job I have now because a dear friend that I used to work with, I basically got her job because she got promoted.
Nice.
And it just worked out at the right time because she was trying to keep me, on the short list for that anyway. But I had the opportunity to, for 3 other jobs because of people I knew. Wow. People I haven't even, and it's so good, never burn bridges, keep your contact positive. There's someone that I hadn't worked with for 10 years that it was a great job that I could have had, and 2 others.
And this person, and so when you contacted them and let them know you were looking, they were like, oh, by the way, we are. Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that was super flattering, and also like, the panic spray, maybe just to get your feet wet, do that for maybe a week, and then be researching, or don't do the spray thing, and just really try to be strategic about it and let people know you're looking.
Well, and that's a really good point. tech note, if you are using the chat, note that there are two kinds of chat. There's general chat for all of us so that the speakers can see, and then you have your table chat, which is just the table that you're sitting at. So I just want to take a moment. I will not, as speakers in this session and the rest of the day, we will only be able to see what's in general chat. We won't be able to see what's on your table unless we hijack you and jump in. We're not doing that right now. No, this is really good. Being strategic. So, and again, Vanessa's got a session this afternoon on resumes, and she's going to deep dive in. She does great with the details. I'm that big kind of strategy 3 to 5 years out. I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow, but I can tell you what I'm doing in 5 years. And so the reason why we were paired up together is because I'll often have content and blog posts and things like that where I go, your resume is not your report card. This isn't a history of every task that you've completed. And somehow you're going, Lisa, may I have this job?
And that was my problem.
Right. So I was going to ask Vanessa, do you run into that? Have you experienced that yourself?
Yes, I have. Because I was super proud of my, again, my seasoned, whatever. And that angel consultant advisor, whatever person, he's like, yeah, you don't need to put the kitchen sink in because it makes you, number one, he says, I'm just being honest, it makes you look old. And ageism is a thing. And he says, I'm going to cut the crap and say that. And he says, recruiters' brains will turn off after 2 pages. 1 is better, but since you have been around a while, stop it at 5 years.
Oh, nice.
5 years experience. And then I kind of went one step further after cruise around on LinkedIn and see whose profiles you like. And if they've linked a resume, how did they do it? And where are they working? And how long have they been there? Because obviously that worked for them to get them the job they have.
That's a really good research point. You're researching not just the jobs, but other people that have the jobs in their profiles. That's a really good note. Sorry.
Thank you. So, and then I'm thinking if someone really knows what they're looking for, I don't need to list in every single bit of my precious space all the things, the travel expense calendar. That's a given. So I put that all in bullet points at the top.
Nice.
Under skills and abilities, or I called it something, more sexy than that. And then list your meat, the non-recurring things, the things that you're proud of, the things that you really, did that were different and value adding. You got to tie it to something that provided value, even if you don't know a specific dollar amount. I did this and it caused this for the company. And those were my descriptions under each role.
Nice. And Hannah brought up a great question in chat. What should we focus on most when writing our resume? For me, I actually, because I'm incredibly lazy, I can't possibly send out another 80 resumes, even if it's easy apply on LinkedIn. And so
nothing's ever easy.
It's just
not. It takes so much time.
And I'm going to share an image here real quick, and we'll hopefully see this here. This isn't pretty, and again, Vanessa's going to have a really cooler method to this, but for me, when I focus on my resume, there's really only 4 major parts that I focus on: who I am, what are my skills and features, how did I get those skills and features, which is your history. And then I throw in the credentials at the bottom, like a YouTube subscribe here, right? So that's just sort of my short version of, and then I just fill it in and go, okay, what's the job description that I'm interested in? And how do I take my resume and turn that into the Rosetta Stone of translating? So for me, I focus on clarity and readability. Touching on Hannah's question, what should we focus on when you're writing in your resume? I focus on outcomes and unique projects. That's what I end up focusing on.
Same, like all the things, just bullet points, just short 2 or 3 word bullet points at the top. Wrap it around so it's no more than 2 or 3 lines. And then, like you, I put the meat, that I call it, under each job, and my credentials at the bottom. But also, my angel advisor guy said my elevator pitch at the top, my objective. You can either, there's schools of thoughts, either have an objective or don't, but if you do, just make it very relatable and readable. And if you don't, again, if you don't know how to do that, cruise around to other people who work where maybe you'd like to work, or they have the job that maybe you'd like to have someday. What do they say in their LinkedIn profile? How do they say it? And
that's a good point. I never thought to ask other admins about their resumes. Didn't occur to me. Look at me learning. Does that help, Hannah? Focusing most on our resumes. I would also add to that, focusing on the things that make you not necessarily unique. So I was at an in-person event a couple years ago, and we are in a room. There's 65 folks, largely women, not large women, but mostly women. Right? Largely women. I got in trouble doing that one. Mostly women. And I get up at the top and I'm doing a resume kind of walk through, what have you. And I look at the room and I say, how many of you are master schedulers? Everybody raise their hand. How many of you are proactive problem solvers? Everybody raise their hand. How many is looking for a passionate company driven by positive moral values? Oh, so all 65 of us looking for the same job with the same skill set. No, obviously, we're all very, very different. So for me, focusing on what makes me different, not unique. There's going to be lots of people that do what I do, but in a style in which I do it. So for example, when Vanessa lists expenses and travel, like I'm going to be perfectly vulnerable and honest and go, I suck at both of those, like real bad, like super bad. I do them. I have experience doing them, but I don't put them on my resume.
Right. Well, and that makes sense. Sorry. Yeah.
I was going to say, so I just focus on the things that I enjoy,
that you want to do,
good at, and that I want to do. Because at the end of the day, if somebody goes, oh my gosh, you've been in Concur for 15 years, we should talk. And I'm going, no, man, I'm not. Precise descriptions of some of the tasks you did. That's a really great question, Hannah. I have done that. So I have combed through, and that's where I got started, is when we talk about a strategic job search, go pick out those job descriptions that really appeal to you. And they may not be jobs that are in your state or in your city or in your domain. But for me, my first layer, like if I'm doing a resume from the ground up, my first layer is to go literally find blocks of words I like. Because that's a way to sort of get started. It's like you're borrowing Legos. And that's a way for me to get started in those tasks. And then I do want to just call out that be careful about listing tasks. You're not hired for tasks. You're hired to be responsible for things, right? So it isn't, I can submit an expense report. It is, I can manage travel, change, expenses, accounting systems. I can meet deadlines. I can reverse engineer due dates. So my personal warning symbol is back to that. It's not a report card. We don't want to do tasks, because if you just list a task, then you're going toe to toe with everybody who can also do that task, right? Right? Yeah, go for it, Vanessa. Like if you want to elaborate on that.
Oh, I completely agree. Or if you're going to, and you like to wordsmith, I spent a lot of time on my rewrite. The things that you can do that everyone else can do, try to say them differently. And just, again, you can cruise around the internet and find, resumes. And I like to write, but I'm not going to take credit for all the structuring that I did, because I don't like to reinvent the wheel and not plagiarize. I'm not saying that, but structure, like, ooh, because I like to relate that to Swedish furniture. It's built well, it looks great, and it's super simple lines.
Nice.
And those are the things that appeal to me. And so those are the places I want to work. So you kind of have to connect it that way.
And when you're doing that research, being, if you see a job description that's worded like, we're looking for passionate people driven by energy and caffeine and sugar and whatever that is. Like your resume should have energy in it, right?
And you can, yeah. Sorry, I know I keep.
No, you're okay. This is totally it. We're both so excited about all of this.
That you can have it, and again, it's work. This whole thing it's work to find work. Oh my God, it was my full-time job finding a full-time job. But once you get out of that and you're in it, you can have different resumes for different tones and different positions. So you can have the super caffeinated, passionate resume, or if you're, applying to a place that's a little quieter, either you can go schools of thought. You can hit them with your or you can craft the calmly passionate, thing.
Right.
Or you can have the strategic administrator, business partner resume, and you can have the administrative assistant resume that's maybe, a little more tasky, but still, but you really like that position. So, no judgment. It's all good.
Yeah.
But just craft it, because again, it's not one size fits all. I found I crafted to the jobs, the different positions.
Awesome.
And you don't have to rewrite each one. Make it modular, so you can move. My son told me this. So you can move different paragraphs in and out.
Oh, that's a really good point, actually. Yeah, you can, depending on what
those master document. Yeah.
Right. And if we're looking at the resume right now, like in terms of readability, because I'm the super nerd. I read about SEO, readability, emotional trailing, leading with, because I'm so lazy, I want to just shove all the framework in here so that I only have to write it once or twice. And so I had a recruiter tell me, if I only read 3 seconds, what am I going to get to learn about you? And it may be linear reading down, going, okay, well, I'll learn your name and about you, or I'll learn this. And then another trick that I would often use is bold keywords, right? So if I am a content manager and that appears, I manage content for a global portal, then I'll bold those words. And the third note that just reminded me when you were chatting is looking at other job descriptions. It may not be another admin job you're pulling from. So I remember looking at project manager and program manager job descriptions when you go to pull your starting copy, so to speak. Do you ever look around to other resumes and jobs too? How do you know what appeals to you or what to pluck out? Good morning, Angela. You said good morning in chat, so I'm going to say good morning back.
Yeah, I definitely do that. I don't know if other people have, but I'd say jump around. LinkedIn is such a good resource. And again, the internet. Because I looked up, admin assistant, executive assistant, business partner. And there are some people who have posted their resumes live, and will think very nice, because I'm gonna check it out.
That. And even executives. I look at the executives' resumes too, because we already know who has the job. How did him get the job or her get the job, right? And in part of that process. We've got more folks joining. Good morning. Let me just make sure we got everybody. Hannah, I wanted to touch on yours real quick. It is important to write your resume with more self-confidence. You are offering something. Yes, I agree. However, I'm not selling my confidence. I'm selling the skills that I do, and that's fact for me. So for me, I struggle with confidence, but I can articulate fact. I know that I have managed and arranged virtual events for 1,200 people live. Confidence is I'm good at it. Right? I'm good at I am the freaking best at virtual events. I'm always learning. But if that helps, confidence versus facts, right? This is your sales sheet, right? This is saying you've got this job and here's why I'm qualified. I've taken the liberty and labor of translating it for you.
Or saying you did the event for 1,200 people, and even if you don't know to the penny the financial gains or the outcomes, you probably know, because you did the event and you heard the feedback afterward, how it positively affected your organization. So that's something that tying into value. I did the event because that's what my angel advisor told me. It's like, okay, you did the thing, but how did it affect?
Yeah.
Even if you don't because we saved $29,000, you may not know that because sometimes we don't all know that, but you know how people are like, oh, that was a great event. Hey, do you know that I made 20 new lead connections or whatever? And well, that's value because maybe those 20 leads you had like 2 great, connections.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you have we're in a role that doesn't have quantifiers, right? We're not sales guys with quotas going, I'm going to go hit my quota, where you have some of those hard numbers. You made a really good point, like tie it into the value. It doesn't necessarily mean I saved X amount of dollars or admins don't contribute to the bottom line. I hope not. I hope we don't cost you money. I hope we save you money. We save you time, the things that you haven't.
And some of us do the budgets and some of us just have an awareness of the budget. So again, if you know exactly, awesome, say that. Yeah. If you don't, and you just have a more organic knowledge of it, say that too, because that's what my person had said. He's like, yeah, I did this, I did that. He's like, but how did that,
What's the impact?
Yeah.
It's a great question. We've got our, in the Q&A section, Jennifer, good morning. So I'm also just going to make a quick note so you guys are pro when we get into the next room. When you go into Q&A and we're in the larger group, we've got over 100 people joining us today. No pressure. You're going to see questions pop up in Q&A. And if it's a question that you like, you can upvote it and it'll appear higher up on our speaker feed. So I'm just going to give you all that little hack when we get into the big room. And the question is, do you generally use a recruiter to find new positions? Ooh, Vanessa's going to have a really cool, polished, organized idea. Mine's a little bit different. I use them all. I use recruiters. I use friends. I use third party. I use job boards. I use Facebook groups. I use tech sites. For me, I comb a lot of job boards and I don't apply there. I comb the boards, find the jobs I like, go to LinkedIn, try to find somebody either I know or a recruiter that's tied to them and say, I'd love to learn more about this role. Are you able to put me in contact with someone? Right? Because I don't want to be like, hi, you don't know me. Will you give me a free name? Will you put me in front of the line for this? So when you say, do you generally use a recruiter? There's 2 ways I could read that. Yes, because I've never been contacted by the executive themselves. There's always like a recruiting layer in there. But the type of recruiter, is it a direct hire that works for the company? Yep, I've worked with them. Is it a third-party staffing firm? Yes, I've worked with them. And real quick, some folks don't do, temporary staffing or don't see value in getting registered with staffing agencies. For me, being outside the Seattle area, I've been in the Seattle area about 21 years now. I wanted to meet as many third-party or third-firm recruiters as I could. Why? I was registered with over 18 agencies just in the Seattle area. And you're like, oh my God, that's so many. Yes, but it's practice interviewing. It's people feeding my resume and giving me edits. It's 18 recruiters from those 18 different firms I made impressions with. So when they go out and look for jobs and recs and whatever, and they get some weird role, and this has happened, and go, oh God, I know exactly who this is for. This is for this girl. I got to call Melissa because I stick in their mind. So it's not, for me, recruiters are baseball cards that I love collecting. I don't know the value of them yet. They may or may not gain or lose value, but like, it's that opportunity to get into their network, regardless of what firm they work for, right? Because their brains keep their favorite candidates, whether or not they can use them at other firms. But let me pause there to see if that answers the question, and then also to allow Vanessa, do you use a recruiter to find new positions, or can you elaborate on how you find new positions?
Well, I live in San Diego, California.
Lovely.
And but San Diego, I'm a native, but also I'm gonna poop on my area a little bit. It's a tough place to be an assistant. and I don't know why. I'd like to do research in that. I have a few ideas, but I don't want to sound negative.
I think it's
a little bit,
California and Washington in general.
a
Just
little
the
bit
you know what I
dark
mean?
ages.
Just the
So
admin
yeah,
hub. It's
it's
just
weird. It's super.
wicked.
It's been a challenge to be in this role for 30 years here, you know, and not like. So there are no recruiting agencies for assistants here. There are none.
Oh,
And the closest ones are in the Bay Area.
Right.
So, and I don't live in the Bay Area. So I did have several people reach out to me. Oh man, I wish you lived in the Bay Area because I'd get you a great job in a second. And that was true. And I even considered, because my kids are, you know, in their early 20s, and my husband and I are solid, you know, and he's super supportive. We are of each other's careers, but moving, you know, if I wasn't going to find something down here, you know, if the well was dry down here, moving to the Bay Area because the opportunities were just so much better and the money was better. So I had to just do a little more brick and mortar work, like I mentioned, because it got a little scary and discouraging for a while. Just really mining the internet, like I mentioned, because it was really going to be up to me. I had applied to some places like Apple One, you know, it's your you know, your regular standard agencies that were not just, you know, well, most of them still had very few assistant roles on them of any stripe, and definitely not anything super lucrative. I like, you know, it's still a connection. And that, you know, like higher power, whatever you believe in,
right?
That's where that person who was a consultant, he wasn't even a full-time employee of this agency, reached out to me.
Yeah.
So,
and you're totally right.
If I hadn't done that,
where would you be? Like, yeah, you just, I mean,
I've been in the profession for resume.
like 20, 22 years or something like that, right? Like I'm like good lighting, I'm a little bright, good hair color. But yeah, like 21 years, like back when we were still filling out paper,
yes,
you know, applications and like
I don't miss that with the ballpoint pen.
Yeah. So I would be super lazy and cheat, and because whenever I would get a job application back in those days, I asked for multiple copies so that I could just photocopy. I could fill one out, I could photocopy and like use the application. Oh, here's the, oh, this isn't your application? Well, it's all filled out anyways. Can you go ahead and use it? No, don't listen to me. No, I'm kidding. Discouraging. That's actually one, I got excited before that. So a really cool networking, like you never know when you're networking. You're always networking, right? You are always your brand. But the idea of going, you don't know who you're going to meet, whether it's a staffing firm, whether it's, you know, we'll have an AMA session later this afternoon, but the weirdest way I ever got a lead, or a lead in the hustle terms, a possible job opportunity in the employment terms. But I had a friend get upgraded to first class on a plane, sit next to a gal on the plane in first class by surprise, right? Because she wasn't planning on being in first class. They ended up talking for 2.5 hours about what she did. My friend's a retired EA from Microsoft, you know, very business manager, super high level mentor. Said, here's what I do. The gal on the plane was like, oh, I love this. I think my husband and mine's business is growing and we need one of you. Are you available? And she said, no, I'm retired right now, but I know a girl. And so then about 2 weeks later, my friend says, hey, you're going to get an email from people you don't know. Let me set you up for the call and go, here's what we talked about. So I can sit here even now and go, okay, get all strategic, know your market, know your staffing firms, have your inner circle, get your resume together. And then you do all of those things, you put that out into the universe, because all of those actions for me is combating the discouragement. I'm going, look, I'm making efforts. I am trying to put this positive energy forward. And then now, how did you get contacted for this job? My friend was on a plane. Like, you can't make this stuff up. It may just happen that way. But until your mindset kind of lines up all of your ducks in a row, I would have never been able to be ready for that opportunity when it arrived for me. So it's like, you don't know who's talking about you.
Your feelers out.
Oh, and I love that. So like Vanessa shared in chat, make sure your connections know you're searching. I will say I'm personally guilty of not doing this because when I'm searching, I feel guilty and like I'm doing something wrong. And I'm like, oh, I'm looking for a job. So I appreciate that because that's food for thought. I never really, I'm very quiet when I'm looking for a job, which is weird. But then of course I'm this ninja, so that makes sense.